Guilty of 16 sexual offences against children. Gibraltar-based Balaena, owners of GBC, announce a £150 million expansion and rebrand. The minimum net wealth requirement for high net worth individuals goes up to £5 million. Dates being looked at for the signing of the treaty, the 13th of July is being mooted. And the future location of Gibraltar's new fire station comes under the spotlight in Parliament. Hello, thanks for joining us. Former teacher and scout leader Clayton Booster has been found guilty of 16 sexual offences against children. The indictment contained 19 counts. 3 of these were alternative charges. Eventually, each dropped for their more serious, relevant charge. The offences related to 4 victims and dated back to the period between 2007 and 2016.
The case centred on allegations that Booster used positions of trust, friendship and influence to get close to schoolboys, first as the cool teacher, the cool scout leader, and then as someone who crossed serious sexual boundaries. Jurors heard evidence of inappropriate messages, requests for indecent images, sexualized conversations, and incidents involving boys who had looked up to him. 11 charges related to one victim who described the abuse as Groundhog Day, saying it happened almost daily and became routine. Throughout the trial, Booster denied the charges. His defence argued the complainants were either mistaken, over the age relevant to the offences, or had colluded against him. After the Chief Justice took the jury through his summing up, the jury retired to consider its verdict. It took the jury just under 4 hours to find the defendant guilty on all charges. Clayton Booster was facing 19 counts of sexual abuse charges against 4 complainants who were schoolboys at the time the offences took place. As the counts were read out and the guilty verdicts were announced, emotions began to show. When the Chief Justice discussed custody, the Crown asked for Booster to be remanded, but the defence applied for bail, so the 43-year-old had time to get his affairs in order. Justice Dudley said he would grant bail at this stage, but told Booster all sentencing options remained open. He added that it was clear the case would be dealt with by way of an immediate custodial sentence. The matter has now been adjourned until the 18th of August, when Booster is expected to be sentenced.
Gibraltar-based Balaena, the owners of GBC, have announced the £150 million acquisition of British Marine Engineering Group, APCL. The deal brings shipyards in Birkenhead, Falmouth and Tyneside into the group, while Gibraltar will remain its headquarters. It also includes a UK training college, which the company says will help expand apprenticeships opportunities locally. And Chief Executive Simon Gillette told our reporter Kevin Ruiz that the acquisition will strengthen the group's position in the ship repair market, creating more work and opportunities for Gibraltar. As part of the move, GBC will be rebranded as Balaena Gibraltar.
Yeah, so those of you that have seen GBC for the last couple of years, you'll see it's part of the Balaena Group, is on the sign as you come in here. We're reversing that a little bit now. So Balaena is the brand that we're going forward with. So this will become Balaena Gibraltar. And that's part of the acquisition where we've bought another 4 yards in the UK, they were known as Camel Laird. It was AMP Falmouth, AMP Tyne, and one in Padstow. All of those will adopt the same nomenclature. So Balaena Padstow, Balaena Falmouth, and Balaena Birkenhead. So yeah, all part of a big group now.
So Balaena Group is expanding, a major investment, £150 million. Now for Gibraltar, what tangible benefits will we see here from this acquisition, and over what time frame can perhaps we expect those benefits to be seen?
Okay, well, it's twofold really. The first one is the Balaena Group is headquartered here. So this is not a UK company, this is Gibraltar actually making the acquisition of these major yards in the UK, and these major defence yards in the UK is now all owned by a Gibraltar company. So this is where we'll be paying our tax, etc. So this is a Gibraltar company. Secondly, locally here in the yard itself, we'll see more work. This scale that we're now going to have means we sit at the top table within the MOD. We sit at the top table with our other customers, commercial customers, and we can provide them comfort and scale. That means we'll get more work here.
So you're talking about more work coming to Gibraltar. Will this mean the creation of extra jobs as well?
For sure. And starting from, we want to start talking more about apprenticeships and bringing more of the youth in. The yard, as you'll see when you walk around here, there's far too much grey hair in Gibraltar in the yard. You know, we're looking to see more youth coming through here. Find it exciting to work on ships. We're going to bring more grey ships, more offshore, complex vessels, things where people really want to aspire to and get their teeth into. So, yeah, certainly more jobs.
Interesting there. You're talking about apprenticeships, you're talking about investment in infrastructure and skills. Now, what specific investments are planned for GBDOC, the current GBDOC, and what level of funding could Gibraltar perhaps expect to receive in the wider group?
Well, the actual number we'll work through, but we've spoken about things like extending our dock number 1 to, ships are getting bigger. So whether that's commercial ships and military vessels are all getting larger. Our dock number 1 was built at a time when ships were obviously smaller. We now need to grow that dock to cater for the new community. So that's a significant, that's an 8-figure sum just to do that piece of work over there. And the buildings that are around us are, not the best in some certain circumstances. So we're looking to improve those as well.
Now you're talking about sat at the top table with top names, the Royal Navy as well, the military. So how does this acquisition, the expansion of the group, improve GBDOC's ability to secure Royal Navy, Allied Naval and major commercial shipping contracts compared with its position today?
So we've had great ideas here in GBDOC for a long time, as was. What we've not had is the horsepower to sit at the table and give these customers comfort. With this acquisition, we're now 2,000 plus people across the group. We've got 12 dry docks. And those 12 dry docks capture the size of vessels that the Royal Navy have. The contract, the business I bought with RFAs, the RFA contract currently resides with the Falmouth Yard and with the Birkenhead Yard, so we've acquired all of that. So immediately we become a major player in the defence sector through this acquisition.
And opportunities, of course, always come with some challenges. What are the challenges you expect in the next few months?
Many. I've got 5 businesses now. I've got to integrate. Simple things like 5 IT systems, 5 HR systems, 5 clocking in systems, all those kind of things that we've now got to rationalise to get into one system so we can operate as a group. That's the stuff we look at. And then the next bit is the marketing and how we present ourselves. Renaming is the first piece of this. We've got to get that name out there and get people to realise that Balena is the force that it's going to be.
Changes to the Category 2 high net worth individual regime have been announced. The current application fee has been increased from a little over £1,200 to £5,000, and the minimum net wealth requirement for new applicants goes up from £2 million to £5 million.
The government says that following the treaty, Gibraltar is entering a new phase of opportunity, connectivity and international attractiveness. It says the changes are intended to ensure Gibraltar continues to attract individuals who are well placed to make a meaningful and sustained contribution to the economy and wider community. Existing Cat 2s will not be affected by the revised minimum net wealth requirement. The government has reiterated its position that Cat 2 status does not confer entitlement to publicly funded schooling or healthcare services. The new rules also provide that a person who gives up their Category 2 status will not have a right to continue to be resident in Gibraltar. This, it says, is intended to ensure transparency for applicants and fairness for Gibraltar taxpayers. The measures form part of the government's commitment to ensuring Gibraltar remains internationally competitive, fiscally responsible and well-positioned for long-term success.
The Chamber of Commerce has welcomed the long-awaited publication of the new residency guidelines. It will be analysing its contents and engaging in a consultation exercise. The Chamber appreciates the government's stated commitment to grounding residency in genuine economic contribution while seeking to protect the integrity and sustainability of local public services. However, it believes ensuring that Gibraltar remains open to necessary talent, enterprise and flexible commercial growth is equally critical for the ongoing health of the local economy. The policy paper, it says, introduces substantial structural changes to how individuals qualify for residency in Gibraltar. It establishes new thresholds around employment earnings, accommodation standards, age limits and initial economic deposits for the self-employed or newer trading entities. It adds that, given the far-reaching nature of these criteria and their direct intersection with local business operations, labour recruitment and the wider commercial landscape, it is vital that the private sector thoroughly analyses the practical implications of these measures. The Chamber aims to provide a fuller and detailed opinion in the coming weeks as these discussions with its membership and industry bodies takes place. The government is holding the first in a series of sector-specific town hall meetings on Monday to help businesses prepare for the implementation of the treaty. The two sessions, both taking place at Inces Hall, will give attendees the opportunity to receive practical guidance, engage directly with officials and ask any questions they may still have. The first session from 4:30 to 5:30 will focus on pharmaceuticals and medical products. The second, from 5:45 to 6:45, will cover special customs procedures, including bonded warehouses. The meetings will be attended by the Deputy Chief Minister, Joseph Garcia, Minister for Business, Gemma Arias Vasquez, and Attorney General, Michael Jamas. For his part, Chesterton's Director, Mike Nichols, says the changes to the Cat 2 requirements are broadly welcome and much less dramatic than some had feared. He claims a £5 million net wealth requirement remains internationally competitive, and if anything, the previous £2 million threshold was relatively modest by global standards. He joins us live in the studio. Mike, thanks very much for coming in. We've got a relevant quote from you. Government has chosen evolution rather than revolution. Why do you say that? And what might revolution have looked like?
Revolution could have been abandoning the Cat 2 regime completely, or it could have been putting up to 10 million to 20 million, or it could have been a restriction on the number of people who could come into Gibraltar. They haven't done that. Or they could have made Gibraltar less attractive tax-wise by increasing certain taxes. So they could have reduced demand, made it less popular, so therefore there weren't so many people on our public services. That would have been a revolution. This is just, changing the entry price to a successful theatre show. The entry price has gone up, but we still think people will come here.
But not raising it too much. That was key in your analysis.
Personally, I don't think that's raised too much, because I think if you look at the Cat 2s now, I suspect most have got 5 million, not 2 million. And again, compare us with Jersey, Malta, and wherever you want to, Luxembourg. 5 million in that market, net assets, is not too high a threshold.
You have said you see it as a positive change. If we can look at some of the other points you've raised, one is that Cat 2 regime will not be a shortcut to long-term residency. It's obviously this change has come as part of a package of announcements.
What they clearly have done, which seems draconian to an extent, but they're looking after the public services for the local population, is as soon as you have stopped becoming Cat 2, you're out. As soon as you stop having a job at a certain threshold, you're out. There's no soft landing. So Cat 2 isn't an entry ticket to the rest of your life. You can stay here as long as you're paying your, whatever it is, 40,000 a year. But once you drop off from Cat 2, you don't have the right to reside here.
You've mentioned the tax there. Another point is that there doesn't seem to be any indication that the tax raised from Cat 2 individuals will increase despite that very strong demand for Gibraltar residency. So
I was quite surprised at that, because, as I say, it's roughly 40,000, slightly depends, and I would have thought that would have gone up. But it's the budget round the corner, so perhaps there's another opportunity for the government to do that. I would imagine it will go up. I was just surprised it didn't happen today.
You also raised the issue of housing, the eternal issue of housing in Gibraltar, at least in our generation, suspecting supply will struggle to keep up with the pace. That's just the same old story.
So I think the constraint on the number of Cat 2s who come here is really the scarcity of land, the scarcity of the properties that they would like to live in. We're 2.5 square miles, so there's not going to be sufficient housing for people who want to come here. That's the natural constraint. And that will also, that's across the market. Generally speaking, over the long term, demand exceeds supply because of our lack of land.
And talking about the other announcements in respect of the new minimum salary requirement, this is a new lower threshold. Under the updated residency rules, it seems the government might have taken on board your suggestion to allow companies the leeway of paying Bob Smith from Norwich less than the $37,500, as long as the company pays tax and social insurance for that amount.
So that's the benefit of viewpoint, I suppose. Yes, we can't stop companies wanting to recruit younger people who aren't going to earn $37,500 but are the future business leaders, and there needed to be a way of doing that. Whether they've done enough, not sure, but at least now, if you want to employ someone $25,000, the company would pay a top-up, 3 or 4. It's doable. Whether it's kind enough, I don't know, time will tell. But at least we've got a way for younger people, the entrepreneurs of the future, to come in.
You still want to have that pathway for those that might want to try Gibraltar out?
We need those in. They've been very tough on the British retired. They're the ones who have lost out here, because up until 6th of May, British retired had the right to come here as long as they were in receipt of a state pension. That's gone. Upper age limit is 55, unless you have special dispensation. They're the ones who are sort of writing in saying, oh, our dream has been shattered. But then, if Gibraltar doesn't want them, Gibraltar doesn't want them.
Difficult balance to strike.
It is a difficult
Mr.
balance.
Nichols, thanks very much for joining us. Your analysis is always appreciated. Good shout out for Viewpoint as well, because residency rules are among the topics discussed in tonight's Viewpoint at 9 o'clock with Minister for Business Gemma Arias-Vasquez and Opposition MP Craig Saccarello among Rosa Stengo's guests. Elsewhere, senior UK and EU politicians are looking at their diaries to find a date ahead of the 15th of July for the signing of the EU-UK treaty. In relation to Gibraltar, the Spanish press claims the treaty will be signed on the 13th of July in Brussels. A spokesperson for Number 6 says nothing is confirmed. Several dates are being considered. The 13th of July coincides with a Foreign Affairs Council, which would give Foreign Office ministers an opportunity to meet in the Belgian capital. A UK-EU summit, initially scheduled for that date, has now been set for the 22nd. The treaty does not need to be signed in person, but GBC understands that this is what is being looked at the moment. You're watching GBC News. Still to come, we'll bring you up to speed with today's session in Parliament. The GSD raises questions about meningitis vaccines for university students. And Monsignor Charles Asopardi is back on the rock after attending the Sagrada Familia Church in Barcelona. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. The future location of Gibraltar's new fire station was again under the spotlight in Parliament after government revealed the GFRS has asked it to consider an alternative to the Rook site. Minister for Civil Contingencies Leslie Brusson was also questioned on overnight fire cover at the airports and the rates paid to officers carrying out those duties.
Madam Speaker, whilst we're in a position to commence works at the Rook site, the GFRS requested that we consider an alternative location for the new station, which they believe will be better suited to their operation requirements.
The opposition questioned why the project is still not underway after years of commitments from successive GSLP Liberal manifestos.
This is a manifesto commitment that's been there since 2011, so why this change now?
Questions were also raised about the proposed location. The opposition argued that concerns previously raised over plans for a police station at the Rook site should also apply to a fire station.
As we understand it, the reason why the police station wasn't going to be located at the Rook site is because it had some sort of offensive effect on the historical wall, or the views of the historical walls behind it. So, on that basis, should they not be residing from their manifesto commitment in respect of the location also of the fire station?
The government rejected that comparison, saying the focus should be on delivering a station that meets the operational needs of the service, both now and in the future.
When they tell us to pause because they've reconsidered and they think that it needs to be redesigned, the proper thing to do is to follow their lead and not press on to avoid us being politically embarrassed, because it is a manifesto commitment and we very much want to deliver it, but to listen to the experts and accept their view that we need to pause and consider redesigning.
The debate later turned to airport operations, with the minister confirming the Gibraltar Fire and Rescue Service takes responsibility for runway fire cover once the airfield closes at night. The opposition then raised concerns about the rate paid to firefighters carrying out those duties outside of normal working hours.
Does the government feel that £18.56 per hour is adequate remuneration for the risks undertaken by GFRS officers?
Madam Speaker, the government negotiates with the GFRS directly, not through the Honourable Lady in this House.
The government rejected suggestions that firefighters are being inadequately compensated and said existing arrangements remain appropriate. Talks on a possible alternative location for the new fire station continue. The Minister insists the Rook site remains available should the alternative option not be adequate.
Questions are being raised over whether Gibraltar students heading to university this autumn will be offered protection against meningitis B.
The GSD has taken up the issue following a decision by the NHS to expand its meningitis B vaccination programme, with around 1 million young people in the UK, including those starting university for the first time, set to be offered the vaccine. Shadow Health Minister Joel Ladislaus says many Gibraltar students of university age are unlikely to have received the jab as children, as it only became part of the routine vaccination schedule in 2015. She says parents have been asking what arrangements will be in place locally, with a new group of students due to leave for university in the coming months.
Monsignor Charles Azobardi is back on the Rock after attending a major celebration at the iconic Sagrada Familia Church in Barcelona, where Pope Leo presided over Mass before over 120,000 people. The Sagrada Familia has been under construction for over 144 years now, and this celebration marks a major milestone towards its completion, although that might still be another 5 or 10 years away. The visit formed part of the 4th Mediterranean meeting, an assembly bringing together bishops and church leaders from across the region to discuss some of the most pressing challenges facing their communities, including peace and dialogue. Upon his return, he told Kellyanne Ward that hearing about the issues affecting other churches in the region made him appreciate Gibraltar all the more, without taking it for granted.
There is a lot of disunity, there's a lot of friction, and that made me think that, well, thanks be to God, there is a tremendous, wonderful respect here for everyone. I think we mustn't take it for granted. We have to work to ensure that respect perpetuates for the next generations. We have seen perhaps only what I would call 2 dark days in Gibraltar: the day of the riots on 2 occasions. But apart from that, thanks be to God, all has been. We've had demonstrations, we've had protests and all that, but really all in a very peaceful way, you know.
Probably made you feel quite grateful.
Absolutely. But I also had a first view of seeing the beauty of the Sagrada Familia. I mean, it wasn't the first time I had been there. This was my 3rd visit, and I don't think that you could ever get tired because there's so much to see, so much detail. It was absolutely incredible, you know. I mean, I remember visiting St. Mass in the crypt, which is the only thing that Gaudí actually saw, and the detail was even the doorknobs were designed by him. He designed everything, the benches, the candlesticks, everything had a meaning. And it was all, I mean, if we are, after St. Francis, I think it will be Gaudí. I mean, he really brings about the essence of creation into sculpture.
And that is all we have time for. Don't forget, you can, as always, catch up on our website at gbc.gi and catch up with the latest news across our social media pages. Enjoy your evening. Good night.